And I've recognized one thing as I've traveled around. The number one question I get around the world is, how do I become more mentally tough? And it's only through experiences that you can accomplish that. And I'm going to share with you an experience that we've been on over the past 15 years. My goal today is to do two things. One, give you hope on the journey that you're on. And two, remove any excuses that may exist on your journey. And after the 50, which was 50 Ironmans, 50 days, 50 states, we'll get into that. My life changed. I didn't set out to be a speaker. I'm actually a pretty high-level introvert. And I was getting these calls to speak and race, and I quickly realized they were just trying to break me. I established myself as a mental giant, and they wanted to bring me down. And so I got this phone call, and it was to do this really hard challenge. I got this phone call from Africa, and they said, hey, we want you to come climb our mountain. And I said, wow, well, I don't climb mountains. And they said, no, this is Mount Kilimanjaro. This is 20,000 feet in the air. You have to come climb it. And I was like, guys, pay attention. I swim, I bike, I run. I don't climb mountains. And they said, well, we know you like to be the first person to do something that nobody else has ever done before. How cool is it to say you're one of 8 billion? And then they said this, we want you to come and be the first person ever to ride your bike to the top. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Why would I want to do that? And then I found myself in Africa trying to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. It's just the way I'm wired, and I instantly regretted this decision because there's only one way to get to the top, and it's straight up. And the higher you get, the less oxygen there is. And so I made it to base camp, 12,500 feet. And at base camp, I was listening to this group of veterans who had just summited the mountain, and they were telling me about the experience and the view and all these things. And I went over to them, and I started talking to them, and for some reason, I decided to complain to them about how bad my leg hurt. Yep. And I looked down, and you can imagine the emotion I had when I realized she only has one leg. That's a moment where you have an absolute paradigm shift in the experience you're having in that moment. And I changed right then and there. And I said, tomorrow I'm waking up, I'm putting a smile on my face. I don't care how steep it is. I don't care how many boulders there are. I don't care how lack of oxygen. We're making it to the top. And we ended up being the first group to summit Mount Kilimanjaro on bikes. And it was incredible. And the view from 20,000 feet. Pictures never do it justice, but this was the view. And as I was sitting there taking it in, I thought back to that same group of veterans. And in that group was another gentleman. He was completely blind. His eyesight was taken in battle serving this country. He couldn't see what I was seeing, yet he was choosing to be happy. In that moment, he was alive and having experiences despite something being taken away from him. And in life, we have no idea when something's going to be taken away from us. I think what's happening in LA, one day, normal life. Next day, total change. It's shocking how many people aren't here right now in this moment. And there's only one time that's important, and the time is now. And it's the most important time because it's the only time when we have any power. So I live my life in a way that I say yes to things that terrify me. I try to become uncomfortable every single opportunity I get. I got this phone call. They said, James, you want to fly in an F-16 jet? And I'm like, no. But I said yes. And everybody's been on an airplane. You know how long it takes to get to 30,000 feet? I'm going to share a video. Ground takeoff to 20,000 feet in 15 seconds.
300 knots, we're at 60 feet. For 10,000.
221 speed, turn right heading at 040.
All right, rolling out.
501, set departure radar contact.
Copy 01, copies left on course.
Okay, you can hear me. That's me deep breathing. I'm freaking out. My eyeballs are this big. I'm plugged into the jet. The legs are compressing, sending blood to my brain so I don't pass out. And I'm freaking out because if anything happens, I can't fly this jet. And if you could hear the pilot, it was like he was having a Sunday dinner conversation with somebody. He was totally fine. He was the expert in this situation. He put in thousands of hours in the simulator and studying. He's got an amazing team around him, and he's communicating with them. And I was so grateful that he was there and he was the expert. And I think we can all agree, we live in a very unique time in society of social media. And there's so many benefits, but there's some toxicity to it. And one of them is it's paralyzing us as a society from doing anything new for the very first time, being the newest member of a community. we're fear of that judgment and ridicule of people. Because if you notice, everybody on Instagram, and they're the expert, they're the coach, and they're the mentor, but it's paralyzing us. And the reality is every journey has a humble beginning. And I'm almost embarrassed to put this up. In fact, I am embarrassed to put it up. I'm wearing a nose plug. I'm in a pool. And this is a picture of me in my very first ever triathlon. It's a mini triathlon. And I'm gripping to the edge of the pool. I'm gasping for air. I'm learning how to swim in this moment. I've borrowed a bike. But I'm so grateful I had the courage to start, because this moment completely changed my life. And I went home. I turned on the TV, and it was the World Championships for the Ironman race. And I heard the NBC announcer say, "This is the hardest single day in sports." And I said, "Wow, what's that?" And he said, "It's a 2.4-mile swim. It's a 112-mile bike ride, and this race finishes with a full 26.2-mile marathon run. It totals 140.6 miles. And I said, I just want to do one. I want to hear that man, Mike Riley, say, "You are an Iron Man." So I trained. I got ready. And when I got into my first water in that first race, I was not ready. 2,000 athletes released that adrenaline. I got kicked in the face. I got punched in the mouth. I got swam over top of. That was not the plan for the day. And in life, when chaos ensues, you have to have the ability to calm yourself down and start to navigate through chaos. I made it through that swim, thankfully. I went and I found my bike, and I started to bike the 112 miles. I made it all the way to mile 80. And at mile 80, I had a visitor join me on the bike. And he started to tell me I'm not good enough. I didn't deserve to be there. I haven't put in enough work. That visitor was the bully inside my head. We don't talk to anybody the amount and the volume that we talk to ourselves. And you wouldn't be friends with someone that talked to you the way that you talk to yourself, so why do we tolerate it? I have found out and figured out in life that it's these moments that matter. It's not about silencing the bully. It's about managing that conversation in our head, changing the conversation. Science says we can't have two thoughts at the same time. Darkness cannot exist in the presence of light. And all we have to do is learn how to change the narrative as best we can. I made it to the end of the bike ride. I won that conversation. I made it to that final 26.2 miles. And I know most of you are thinking right now, why would anybody do this on purpose? If this is the result, why? And I'm here confidently today to tell you that it's not this moment, it's this one. And in this moment, everything goes away. The pain, the sacrifice, the energy, the effort, it all becomes worth it. And I wanted to have that experience as often as I could. And so I set out on a very unique journey to break multiple Guinness World Records. First, most half Ironmans in a single year. And then I set my sights on the full Ironman world record. I looked in the book, and they said 20 Ironmans held by a gentleman in Belgium. And so I looked at my ability, I looked at my belief system, I looked at my team, and I said, I can do 30 Ironmans through 11 countries. And we made that announcement. And they said, you know, if you just did 21, it would be a new world record. And I said, yes, but there's the problem. Everybody is comparing themselves against the current standard of excellence instead of actually shooting for a mark that we know and believe we're capable of. We're limiting ourselves as a society. And so I set out to do those 30. My team and I, we set out. We knew we just had to start because we were going to have challenges and we were going to learn and grow as we went along. I'm in Marble Falls, Texas. And the conditions were perfect, and so I jumped in the water and I did that 2.4-mile swim. And when I got out of the water, my buddy Tyrell was there. And he was there to cheer me on and support me. And I couldn't figure out why he was so excited. And he says, hey, James, the leaders of the race, they just left. Grab your bike, go catch them. You could win today. And I was like, bro, I'm not trying to win today. I got to do an Ironman next weekend. And then he says, just imagine how much your kids will love you if you win. And I said, they're 6. They want a Snickers bar and a bag of chips. That's it. But he said, just imagine. Now, when in our adult lives did we stop imagining? How many of your peers and family members and associates are waking up every single day so fired up to live life? Or how many of those people do you know are just like going through the emotions and checking the boxes? And so I got all fired up. I grabbed my bike. I passed an athlete. I passed another one. I was biking as hard as I could. I made it all the way to the lead of this race. And when I was in the lead, they gave me this motorcycle escort, and I was having such a good day. I was like, I think I can pass this motorcycle too. And I couldn't get him. But at mile 100, I got the most intense cramp I've ever gotten in my life. It grabbed, it locked, it wouldn't let go. And in that moment, I started to pull over to the side of the road to quit. That bully popped in my head. He said, I told you. I told you you're not good enough. You didn't deserve to be here. You're not a winner. You're not a champion. Go home. And in life, we listen to that voice over and over again. As soon as it starts to become difficult or challenging or hard. I heard another voice in that moment. It was intuition. It said, James, you've got one good leg. It's only 12 more miles to bike. It's just a marathon to run. Let's go. I was like, dude, you're genius. I've got options. So I got on my bike and I turned the pedals over with one leg. Made it to the end of that bike race. Still the lead. Tyrell was there, super excited. He's like, James, you're winning this race. I'm like, shut up. I'm in a lot of trouble and I may need medical help. But I grabbed my cowboy hat and I started to run. Putting one foot in front of the other. Trying to manage the situation that I was given in that moment. I make it all the way to mile 17. At mile 17, every single muscle in my body contracts at the same time and I hit the ground. Tyrell sees me, comes sprinting over to me, running over to me. I'm thinking, okay, man, dude's smart. He's calling medical. I'm dying. He gets over to me and he says, James, don't worry about a thing. I've got great news. I've got your wife. She's on the phone. She wants to talk to you. I looked him straight back in the face and I said, tell her no thank you. I knew she was going to tell me to get up and I couldn't. He comes back moments later. He's like, James, I'm so sorry. It's not medical. It's not your wife. It's your daughter, Lucy. She wants to talk to you. I took that phone call, and she was 9 years old. We had a very quick conversation, and she says, Dad, you told me we were going to be in the Guinness Book of World Records. You said we were going to do 30 Ironmans in 1 year. Is there any way, can you get up, just walk, finish? I said, sweetheart, I can't. First time I laughed, I said I can't to my kids. She doesn't skip a beat. Okay, Dad, can you crawl? Will you crawl and finish? And now me, through the tears, I'm like, sweetheart, no, I can't. Short pause. And then I hear this. Okay, Dad, can you cartwheel? Will you cartwheel 9 miles and finish the race today? To that, I said, yes, I can. She had so much belief and conviction in her body, she thought I could cartwheel 9 miles. The question quickly becomes, where's your level of belief and conviction on the journey that you're on? She couldn't see the option to quit. It wasn't on the table. I told her I loved her. I said, Tyrell, help me up. We've got work to do. And we started to walk through the night, putting one foot in front of the other. Went from first place to last place, fighting to get to that finish line, that goal. I got to the moment where I was 100 meters from the finish line. It was right there. I could see it. And I remembered that conversation. I cartwheeled one time. And from that moment on, we went on to win 2 races, placed second 5 times, smashed the Guinness World Record, doing 30 Ironmans in 1 year through 11 countries. All due to the belief, the innocence of a 9-year-old girl. Now, I want to introduce you guys to a friend of mine. His name is Dayton. This kid's cool. He's special. He was just born with a condition that's called cerebral palsy. And I saw a video. He was being assisted by a young man, his friend, through a mini triathlon. I said, man, I wonder if he wants to become an Ironman. And so I called up his mom, and she said, yes, when Dayton feels the wind in his face, it makes him feel alive. And so I got to meet Dayton for the very first time. Lake Havasu, Arizona, raced 27 of 30 in that year. And I've never pulled anybody in a race before, and so I was nervous. I was scared. And his dad walks up, and he throws down this $20 boat from Walmart. And he said, this is what we're going to use to pull my boy. And in my head, I'm like, we're going to kill your kid today. And then he puts his arm around me, and he says, I don't want you to worry about a thing, but Dayton might have a seizure. If he does, just keep swimming. And then the gun goes off. And I'm like, okay. So I grab the rope. I tie it around my waist. I'm swimming as hard as I can. I'm looking back. What's he doing? Is he okay? Is he having that seizure? And every time I look back, I could see him, and his eyes were closed. And I'm like, dude's a genius. He's just taking a nap. And in life, I think you'll all agree that as adults, we look into the future, we create the worst case scenario, and then we live there, and he said this, and she said this, and what if this happens? And it's distracting us and demoralizing us, and then we start to get anxiety and depression, we start to spiral. Man, stop it. We need to pause, take a step back, and control the only thing that matters in that moment, the problem at hand. And I was like, it's just swimming. I just have to swim as hard as I can. We got out of the water, middle of the pack. It was incredible. His dad greeted us with a special cart for Dayton. We start biking, we get going 27 miles an hour. And this time when I look back, what do you think I saw? The biggest smile you've ever seen in your life. And I said, yes, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Unfortunately, at mile 30, Dayton's cart breaks. Where it's connected to my bike, it slipped, and Dayton's cart starts to shake. And we weren't going to make the cutoff, and my wife recognized it, and she came out, and she starts to bike with us, and she reaches out her hand as she's riding with us, reaches out her hand and puts it on the back of Dayton's cart. As soon as she touched the cart, it took away that shake, and my speed doubled. My cadence picked up. I looked back at Sunny. I said, sweetheart, how long can you leave your hand there? And she says, if it's helping, as long as you need. I said, good, I need you for 6 hours. And she said, whatever it takes. And together we pushed and pulled Dayton up and down the hills of Lake Havasu. 6 miles to go. Sun sets, race director comes out, stops us. It's no longer safe. And we were devastated. I just wanted to get this young man across the finish line. And then a police officer came rushing up, and he turned on all of his lights, and he looked right at us, and he says, boys, follow me. I'm going to give you your chance to run your marathon. And I want to share with you guys the video of the day that Dayton and I got to spend together.
There are many limits in life, but the only limit to achieving greatness is telling yourself no. On the surface, I was pulling Dayton, but in reality, he was pulling me. He was the mind, I was the body, and together we were a machine. It became the hardest ride of my life. Every pedal stroke was like climbing a mountain. I kept doing the math over and over in my head. We weren't going to make it. But I kept telling myself, Dayton can't ride a bike. And I get to ride my bike today. I get to ride my bike. I looked back and I realized he wasn't going to cross the finish line unless I took that next step. So we simply push the limits hard. I kept telling myself, Dayton can't run, and I get to run tonight. Greatness isn't measured in hours, minutes, or seconds. It's measured in your ability to kick your limits to the curb and achieve what is possible.
Thank you. Dayton can't ride a bike, and I get to ride my bike today. Dayton can't run, and I get to run tonight. Kept saying that over and over in my head because, again, in life, we have no idea when something's going to be taken away from us. In fact, this happened in 2012, and from that moment to today, I still wake up every single day. First thing, express gratitude. Put my hand over my heart, take a deep breath of fresh air. And I say, I get to do it one more time today. And I realize that nothing great is ever accomplished on our own. Dayton and I, we needed each other. We needed Sunny to come out and reach out her hand. That police officer to light our way. That was Dayton's mother, who ran every step of that marathon with us, and it was my two oldest girls that ran us into the finish line. It took every single one of us to put that medal around Dayton's neck, and I'm so grateful that he allowed me to be part of his day. Now, when you're in the middle of something that seems impossible, when you're trying to solve problems and you're pushing limits and boundaries, you can't see the next challenge until you're ready for it, and that's why you have to keep showing up. And when you're at the top of a mountain, all of a sudden, you can see another one because you've changed. And we believed that more was possible, so we announced 50 Ironmans, 50 days, 50 states. And I sat down with some doctors. I said, what do you think? And they said, it's impossible. You're going to die. And so I stopped talking to doctors. And I started to surround myself with a team that believed in what I was doing. And my team ended up being my 5 kids, ages 5 to 11, my wife and my 2 best friends that we now call the Wingmen. And we set out on this journey, and we did an Ironman in Hawaii and flew to Alaska, did an Ironman, flew to Washington, did an Ironman, piled into a motorhome and started to do every single day, averaging less than 4 hours of sleep a night for 7 consecutive weeks, consuming 12,000 calories a day to fuel the effort. Every single day, chaos, confusion, new environment, new team, new people, new weather, new systems. But I'm so grateful for the challenges because persistence and resilience only come from having been given a chance to work through difficult problems. This journey didn't get any easier. Your life, the challenges, the effort you guys are doing here, it's not going to get easier. You guys get better. You guys evolve, adapt, and change.